Venice feels less like a city and more like a beautiful illusion, as though it rose not from stone and timber but from water, light and memory. It is a place that seems to drift between worlds, part history, part dream, part theatre. Nothing in Venice moves quite the way it does anywhere else. The streets narrow into passages barely wider than a whisper, then suddenly open into bright canals where the sky shimmers in the water and the buildings lean close as though sharing secrets. Every corner feels touched by romance. Every faded façade with its peeling paint and shuttered windows seems to hold the echo of another century, another love, another farewell. There is a softness to Venice that settles over you almost at once. Cars vanish, engines fade, and the city gives itself over to footsteps, bells, and the gentle splash of water against stone. Gondolas glide beneath ancient bridges with an elegance that feels timeless, their dark shapes cutting slowly through reflections of marble palaces and weathered arches. Even the soundscape is romantic, the distant murmur of voices across a canal, the hollow music of footsteps crossing a bridge, the occasional song carried across the water at dusk. Venice does not rush. It invites you to surrender to its rhythm, to wander without urgency, to let beauty arrive quietly. At the heart of this floating world lies St. Mark's Square, Venice at its most majestic and theatrical. The square opens suddenly and gloriously beneath the sky, a wide and luminous stage framed by graceful arcades, historic cafes, and the extraordinary brilliance of St. Mark's Basilica. The basilica itself seems almost unreal, with its domes, mosaics, and intricate details glowing with centuries of devotion and artistry. Around it, the square breathes with a life that is both grand and intimate. Music drifts from cafe orchestras into the open air. Pigeons rise and scatter in a rush of wings over the stones. Visitors pause, look upwards, and fall briefly silent before the sheer beauty of the place. Yet for all its splendour, St. Mark's Square is not cold or distant. It has the warmth of a lived-in masterpiece. In the early morning, before the crowds fully gather, it can feel almost private, as though the city is revealing a gentler side of itself. In the evening, when golden light washes the facades and the shadows lengthen under the arches, the square becomes even more enchanting. It is a place where time seems to loosen its hold, where history is not something preserved behind glass, but something still breathing in the stones, the music, and the air itself. And always, Venice returns you to the water. The canals are not simply part of the city, they are its soul. They wind through Venice like blue and silver ribbons, carrying light, reflection, and movement into every corner. Along their edges stand palaces with elegant balconies, churches with worn steps descending towards the tide, and quiet houses whose doors open directly onto the water. Boats replace carriages, and the city's pulse is measured in ripples rather than the wheels. To travel through Venice by canal is to see a world softened by reflection, where architecture trembles beautifully in the water and every passing moment feels touched by poetry. The Grand Canal, broad and curving, is the city's great watery avenue, lined with magnificent buildings that tell the story of Venice's wealth, power, and artistry. Watching it is like watching history flow. Vaporetto, boats, gondolas, and private launches pass one another in a graceful, unhurried dance, while sunlight scatters across the surface in shifting fragments. Spanning this great waterway is the Grand Bridge, elegant and enduring, a place where Venice seems to gather itself into a single unforgettable view. To pause there is to witness the city in motion. The boat drifts below, the facades glowing softly in the light, the sense that the whole of Venice is floating gently past you. Nearby, the Bridge of Souls cast a different spell, where the city elsewhere gleams with beauty and tenderness. Here, a note of mystery enters the air. Enclosed in pale stone and suspended above the canal, the bridge carries with it the weight of memory and quiet sorrow. It seems to belong to Venice's shadowed side, to its whispered stories and hidden griefs. And yet this melancholy only deepens the city's romance. Venice has always understood that beauty is rarely simple. Its loveliness is heightened by age, by fragility, by the knowledge that everything here is touched by time and tide. That is part of what makes Venice so unforgettable. It is not merely picturesque, it is emotional. It invites wonder, but also longing. It dazzles, but it also haunts. In Venice, joy and sadness seem to move together like light and shadow on the water. A sunlit canal can feel full of promise, while an empty alley at twilight can stir an inexplicable ache.